So let's do a small test here, shall we? Now, how many of you here remember your last meal you had? Hands up. Okay, that's a huge number. Some of the jury members also seem to remember. Now, what about the meal just before that? How many of you remember that? Okay, what about day before yesterday's lunch? Even I don't remember. There's only one guy. So what this tells is we have very limited memory. As humans, we are wired to forget things quickly. Now, what if I tell you we have materials which are man-made, which possess memory? That's what I'm going to talk to you about. Materials with memory for medicine. Now, if you see here on the slide, we have a 3D printed butterfly. Now, 3D printing, I'm assuming you all might know, it's a layer-by-layer fabrication technique which really gives us a design flexibility of making whatever we can. You just make the model in a computer and you feed it to the 3D printer, it will create the object for you. But what is interesting about these materials is they have memory and they memorize its original shape. So this is the original 3D printed shape of a butterfly looking. Now this has been deformed into something which is very ugly. This doesn't even look like a butterfly. Now how many of you want it to go back to its original shape? Okay, now how do we do that? Now you need some temperature as an external stimulation for it to go back. But then I can simply put it in a warm water or heat in a furnace. But I want to heat this without even touching this object. How do I do that? So what I do is I place this object in an alternating magnetic field, and as I switch on the magnetic field, there you see. This is now able to recover back to its original shape. There you have the native beautiful butterfly. Now this is the second shape looking like a fish, somewhat like a fish. Now this has again been deformed into its temporary shape, which is the deformed shape, which if you again place this in an alternating magnetic field and you switch on the field, you can see what is happening there. Now this happens very fast and at temperatures close to physiological levels. And there you go with the original structure back again. Now we again have the same butterfly, but with the difference that we have materials filled inside this butterfly now. Now let's deform it like this and see what happens when I switch on the alternating magnetic field again. There you go. Now it's again able to do the same effect, but now it's faster and the extent of recovery is much higher. And there you have the original shape. Now let's make it a little bit more complicated and let's see if we can. Now this is what you see here is you have a mixture of materials printed in a single structure, but some of the parts are black and some of the parts are white. Now what if I deform the entire structure and put this now inside this magnetic field? What do you think would happen? Let's see. Now as you can see here, only the black parts are able to unfold and come back to its original shape. That is because we have particles inside that which are magnetically responsive, which allow that entire structure to remember its shape and it's able to heat up and come back to its original shape, whereas the white part are not. So here you have the partially recovered structure. Okay, now this is all fancy, this is all great, we can do a lot of things, but how? I mean, life is not all about butterflies and fish. I wish it were, but unfortunately this is not. Let me introduce you to the harsh reality of life. This is an operation room where multiple surgeons are trying to fiddle around a patient's heart to put a cardiovascular stent. Now a stent is placed to mechanically support the heart, and that is what is the current technology, that you have to open up a patient's heart to put the simple device inside. Now what if I tell you that using these fancy materials and technologies I can make this process entirely surgery free? Wouldn't that be interesting and useful as well? But how? So it's not just about stents. We can have knee joint replacement, hip joint implants, be it any medical device. We can essentially put this in a surgically or minimally invasive manner, which without requiring any surgery. You do not have to open up the patient to put a simple device. So this is the original printed scaffold. As you can see, this is not able to get inside this glass tube in its original shape. But once I deform this into a temporary shape, you can see that now it is easily able to pass through this glass tube. Now once you pass this glass tube and you, the medical device at the site of deployment, you switch on the magnetic field and magic happens. As you can see here, this deformed shape is slowly trying to open up into the original porous scaffold that was originally printed. So using these technologies and these materials, you can easily have any kind of medical device which you can temporarily deform it to be put inside a small catheter or endoscopy, which can be passed inside the patient without having to open it. And once it is there at the site of deployment, you can switch on the magnetic field and it will do its job. And you have the remote control in your hand to control all the parameters to ensure that the temperatures are well below the physiological levels. Okay, now every technology has a limitation, and the limitations of this technology is that you cannot have this kind of a magnetic field setup. It's not very portable to have in a clinical setting. So the alternative solution that we have is, instead of magnetic field, we can also use light as a alternative stimulus to heat up the structure. Now when I say light, it's not this light that is falling here. We have to choose the right wavelength of light which can allow these structures to heat up, and then they can show the same shape memory effect. So here what we have is, this is the original 3D printed structure that is printed using light responsive materials. So here the light that is used is near infrared radiation, which is very low energy and around 808 nanometers of wavelength. And now this is deformed into this temporary shape, and once you have this temporary shape irradiated with NIR, the near infrared radiation light, as you can see here, this is able to recover back to its original shape. And finally what you get is this nice scaffold which was the original shape. So now how many of you like going to hospitals? Nobody, right? Even I am scared of going to a hospital. So using these technologies and materials, we can really make patients' lives better. We can avoid surgery and also follow-up surgeries, because all these materials are degradable inside the body. They do not have to be removed by using a follow-up method. So in that way, they also avoid follow-up surgeries. So these materials and technologies help enable the surgeons do their job better. And I, being a materials engineer, like to work in the background without having to see the patients and blood and everything that is there in a clinical setting, and help surgeons do their job better. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. We'll take two questions, one from the judges, one from the audience as usual. If judges are ready, we can give them the mic, yes?
Thank you very much for this brilliant work, first of all, because it's not easy.
Thank you.
And really look forward to applications in medical components and transplants and other kind of devices. How far are we from actually delivering into humans?
So we have couple of preclinical trials already happening. So we have used them as sutureless nerve guiding conduits. I did not put that because it will be too technical, but in principle what we have is, if you talk about peripheral nerve injuries, people really have to do complicated microsurgery, which is not even a skilled surgeon can do. So we make that process entirely surgery free by using these shape memory and shape changing materials. So that is some application we have already shown in a rat model, and we have clinical trials in process, and separately we also have absorbable stents which could be explored using these materials.
So the question still remains, how far are we in time?
Well, I think no research is complete, but I mean, we are trying to take it step by step. Some applications which are currently in the pipeline is what I talked to you about. Now, something as complicated as a cardiovascular stent is little bit, which even the surgeons are not comfortable with. So we need a lot of approvals and all to get into the clinical trials. Sure. Yes. Yes.
So that is the bigger bottleneck, I think.
Yes.
I hope you've taken all your patents and all, right?
Yes, we have, yeah.
Brilliant work. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, one more question we have from the judges.
Could you comment a little bit on the methodology? Like how do you actually do research and finding these materials?
Sure. So this material which I showed is a shape memory polymer which has magnetically responsive particles in the first case and then NIR responsive particles in the second case. But the method is shape memory polymers have this inherent chemical structure which allows them to remember or memorize its original shape, and at lower temperatures you can deform and fix them and they can stay in their deformed shape for years unless you give them that higher temperatures. So if you give them the temperature above its glass transition temperature, it will try to go back to the original shape, which is what I have shown you.
But how are you actually finding these materials?
So there are people who synthesize, but our work is mostly on the characterization and processing of these polymers. So we don't do much of synthesis, but we can in principle have different polymers interacting with them and synthesize a lot of different of these shape memory polymers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now for the audience question. Okay, we have some questions from there.
Hello. Nice presentation. I just wanted to know about, you are talking about materials changing its shape after getting a particular heat.
Yes.
What if you give an exact amount of heat and the material changes to its original position, like a mold? What is the possibility of that? And second question is, what is the name of material?
No, what's the first question? I missed the last part.
So just imagine you have the polymer, you make it as butterfly and, you make it as stunt and then place it inside the patient. You give them the particular heat or magnetic field, then it's changing into the, exactly the shape of butterfly, it changes to the original polymer shape. What is the possibility of that?
That is what will happen in principle, right? You get the original, to get the original shape back, you need some external simulation. That's what.
The original shape of the polymer, not the butterfly. Butterfly is the second.
No, butterfly is what we painted into. That is the original shape.
No, it will come from a polymer, correct?
Yeah, so that's a deformed shape.
Just imagine if you give the proper the electromagnetic field and temperature, it changes to the deformed shape. It will go like the shape will change to original polymer.
Yeah.
Not the butterfly, the original polymer, the deformed one.
That's what will happen, right? It will change from the deformed shape to the original shape.
So it will go to the raw form or?
What is the raw form?
We don't know.
Raw form is the butterfly, right? That's what we painted into.
So
that is the starting point.
Before printing, the material will be in some shape.
No,
correct?
that is the first shape we are giving. Before that it's in molten polymer. We melt the polymer and process into this shape. That's where we start from.